Okay, a few people still coming in. Chat to Clayton on your way in to sign in. Find your way to a spot. I'm going to ask your attention. And again, let me repeat those announcements. Eat some hors d'oeuvres during the reception, but there is a full dinner afterwards. So don't fill up on hors d'oeuvres. And the plates of dinner are compostable. And thank you so much for all of you coming. Sally McLaughlin is moving amongst you. If you can share maybe one between two of the little booklets, they have all of the essential parts of the presentation on them if you don't think you can see the screen all the way through. We have about 40 of those printed out. Okay. Clayton, I'm going to ask if you might take registration sort of to the back. I'm going to start. Is it okay? Hi everyone, Dean Matthew here. How are you? Oh, look, he's wearing his jacket. He means business. It's nice to see you all. This is our annual meeting for 2024. I've got Kenny in the driving seat, which is wonderful. We are recording this. We are not live streaming it, just so that we have a record later of the meeting. Our theme for this year is growing in love and service. That's been our mission statement for the last couple of years, and we are reflecting on that. First item of business is to appoint a clerk. Where is Candace Taylor? Candace Taylor is right here. I would entertain a nomination to make Candace the clerk. By Clayton. Does anybody second? Seconded by Tori. And I wonder if everybody would like to vote for Candace to be the clerk. Otherwise, you have to be the clerk. Okay. Anybody opposed? The motion passes. God be with you. God in heaven, we have heard your call to love and serve one another in this place. You have blessed us with the creativity, trust, commitment, and imagination to do this together. We thank you for every act of love and service that has taken place in this cathedral, inspired by your Son. We thank you that the hungry have been fed, eyes have been opened, the sick have been cared for, and lives have been turned around. Be with us today as we reflect on our life together. Bless us with wisdom in our choices and faith in our call to serve you. Amen. The annual report was produced as a digital magazine that was sent out to you. We did not print physical copies because it was 45 pages long and it would have taken forever and used up many trees. So we hope you read them electronically. Did everybody? Okay, great, fantastic. There'll be a test later. That's an old joke that I've got to retire. If you need a physical version, you can ask for one by request from the parish office, the cathedral office, and we will give you one. But we'd rather not give out too many. The annual report is retrospective. It looks back at the prior year. Elements of the report you're about to hear both marry retrospective and forward-looking elements. There are some places for questions during the presentation, and please save your questions for those places. That would be most helpful. Some of your questions, if we are not able to answer them in full right here and now, we'd like you to email the person that you're asking them of. It might be the treasurer, it might be me, it might be one of the other clergy, and we'll make sure we engage in a fuller answer later if we're not able to answer everything right now. The first element of our report is the nominating committee for vestry members. The nominating committee report for vestry members. This being a report from committee, it does not require a proposer or a seconder. There being the same number as candidates as there are positions, I hope that you might entertain electing them by acclamation. But before we do that, I would like to introduce them to you. So I think everyone's here, although I'm not sure. But Amy Durham, are you here? Amy Durham. I swear I saw Amy Durham a second ago. She may be cooking. John Gorney, are you here? Would you stand for us, John Gorney? John Gorney! This is John Gorney. Rachel Pearman. Rachel Pearman. Jess Reynolds. Jess Reynolds. And Anita Williams. Anita Williams. I also want to note that Lorna Bissett resigned from her position on the vestry. There was therefore an unexpired term, and in our bylaws, the vestry voted for Rick Burwell, the treasurer, to fulfill that unexpired term. But I would like to ask if you would be happy to elect the vestry slate by acclamation, which is like, yay! Yay! So moved. Thank you. The next part of the nominating committee report are delegates to the convention. This again, being a report from committee, does not require a proposer or a seconder. These are the names of the people who are to be delegates. I'm going to call out names as we go, and you can stand up or wave, because some of you are doing jobs. Kenny Pierce. Laurie Richardson she's driving the video at the back. Deirdre Johnson. Pam Stoltenberger. Regan Murphy. Jess Reynolds. Rachel Pearman. Shireen Miles. Anita Williams. And David Crane. David Crane is still coming. Oh, David Crane's here. You're back. Wonderful. Also, I'd like to bring to your attention alternates. I don't know if you realize, but the last couple of years we haven't actually had this many alternates to stand, and I'm really grateful. It's very likely that some of these alternates will actually serve as delegates because people's circumstances change and they can't actually get to the convention. But Rick Burwell, Heather Lyons. Did I see Heather? Oh, right there. Okay. Raymond Strasser-King. Tori Beck over here. Kevin Donahue, he's cooking. Candace Taylor. Tim Taylor. Mary Hustler. Mary Hustler is doing the sound. And Sherry Meadows. I don't see Sherry Meadows, but we are grateful for her. May I also, by your permission, because there being the same amount of candidates as there are positions and no extras, elect all these people by acclamation. Yay! Thank you so much. Next item is the parochial report. I do like to share with you the figures that we included, some of the figures in the parochial report around church growth. From 2023, where we reported 260 average Sunday attendance, to 2024, where we reported 264. If any of you can do math, then you'll notice that's not a 4% increase, that's a typo. My apologies. But also, another thing we'd like to note is that the Episcopal Church has instituted a whole new way of counting, which is an online service book. We have the physical red service book still, which Jean Alford keeps on your behalf. But she's also been entering all those details online, and they automatically populate the parochial report now. Now, we learned in this last year that there was a different standard of counting than we had been used to. Less of our incidental services that happen on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday are counted towards our Sunday morning count. So the 264, if it was still counted the way it used to be counted, would be higher than it actually is there. Our community has been growing in the last year, but there is a different statistical standard, and it's probably a more accurate statistical standard now. Easter grew by about 12%, from 601 to 671. Christmas from 745 to 758, a small growth there. We changed some of our service times at Christmas, which may have had an impact on that, but there was still some growth. Our online viewership, we don't have last year's numbers to compare because the new parochial report, our church has been wrestling with the way to capture online statistics since COVID and has only just come up with a clear standard. So the numbers that you see there match the current standard, and we didn't have those numbers last year because we didn't know to count that way. So online, total live viewership is 59. If you guys are watching on Facebook, then you'll probably think, oh, it's only about 6, 7, 8. But we actually have 4 different streams that we send out into the world. We stream via Facebook, via Boxcast, via YouTube, and via Vimeo. Boxcast is the thing that's just on the front of the cathedral website. That's by far the place where most people go to watch us. They don't go to Facebook anymore. There's kind of been a shift. And we may actually gradually over time be moving people actively away from Facebook because they're changing all their rules for live streaming in ways that are not great for churches. So we get 59 people watching us live, but then there's another statistic the church asks for, which is a week later, because people don't all watch live anymore. If they can sit in their house on a Sunday afternoon with a cup of tea, they might watch church then. Or if they can watch it on a Tuesday evening because they had some spare time, they'll watch it then. So the second number, total post-live view average, is about a week after. But then the total online viewership in the week of a service that we've held is 256. So it might be interesting for you to do the math and notice that 256 and 264 means that we have about 510 people engaging with us on a weekly basis. Did I do that math right? Yeah. Which is interesting, because some of our attendance and engagement has moved online rather than being in person, and it's something we're just living into, and one of the things that we really want to focus on in the year to come is to get better at engaging with those people. Any questions? Seeing none, I'm just going to move on. Development report. Regan, do you want to come and join me? Do you want to say anything, or Regan has been our development chair for the last 3 years, which means she has been in charge of running the stewardship campaign and many of our other fundraising activities. We got to the end of our stewardship campaign with 235 pledges, amounting to $1,043,634.16, which is a 6.33% increase. We've only received 6.33%. It's a 4.5% increase on last year in terms of our giving. Now, I do want to note that our goal was 1.1 million this year, and we didn't quite get there. But as is the case, somebody came to me earlier on today and said, "Oh, I don't think I put my pledge in. Can I do it now?" Yes, you can. You absolutely can. And we believe that that number is going to carry on growing through the year, as it usually does. We're really grateful for people's generosity in their pledges for this year. It's a really solid number, and yes, we could do with it growing, but it's about the highest pledge amount that we received in 15 years. So we're really grateful for people's generosity in the cathedral. Do you want to add anything? Are there any questions? Sheila? Sure, thank you. Maybe too many decimal points. Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, Treasurer's report. I'm going to hand over to Mr. Treasurer.
So as we begin our hour-and-a-half discussion of vacation ownership, I'd like you to think about a timeshare with Marriott. And okay, I have a nice title slide that we can move right past. I want you to know that what I'm looking at has nothing to do with what you're looking at, which makes it fun. Okay, over on your left, we had the income. So we had money, coming in. 1138, the top number. Don't get too hung up on what the numbers are. We're going to look at some trends in a second. But altogether, we brought in 1347. Fabulous. Unfortunately, we spent 1543. Now, if this were your house, you'd be kind of going, I think we need to cut back on going to Starbucks here or something like that. So we spent more than we brought in, yielding a deficit of $196,000. Now, I have some good news. Surprisingly, I have some good news out of this. The budgeted deficit was even higher than that. The budgeted deficit was like 206 or something, going negative. We won. We We brought this in for less than we spent, or less than we thought. Now follow a series of bar charts. The numbers up on there, those you can track those if you feel like it. I like to look at the shape of the bars themselves. The blue bars, the light blue bars, are the pledge and pledge-related income. The magenta bars, there wasn't any magenta when I was in school, by the way. They hadn't invented that color yet. The magenta up here, this is the other miscellaneous income. This is the pledge, basically the pledging income. And I want you to just kind of focus on the shape of those bars over time. I did these for 6 years to show beginning, during, and after the pandemic, and kind of that's one of our continuing themes, is how our finances did through and coming out of the COVID-19. The blue section of it hasn't really moved that much over the 6-year period, right? And as we go to the next slide, which is expenses, you see that our expenses are actually creeping up. The green portion of these bars are the largest single cost driver of our expenses, which are, we're calling them HR, it's compensation and benefits. That's the largest single driver. And again, if you look at the shape of the bars over time, the shape of the green bars over time, we've done a very effective job of managing those controllable expenses. The top portion, which is in some undiscernible color up here, I don't even know what that is, some sort of pink or something or other. Those are more other overhead expenses, and those are growing faster. If you look at the shape of that increase, that's our light, that's our power, that's our gas, right? So those are some of the other expenses, and those are really, I think, growing at a little faster rate. We've done a very good job of managing expenses, which leads to the next slide. How are we doing on operational? 5 of the last 6 years have been a deficit. 1 year we had 2021, right in the height of the pandemic, we had a very good revenue year, and part of that was federal incentive monies. Which was it? Oh, CCP, DDT. It had 3 initials. I have no idea what they were, but there was an operational profit, hoorah. Operating at a deficit is not new to this congregation. 5 of the last 6 years, and I think if you go back, it's like 9 of the last 10, something like that, have been in a deficit position. So how do we pay for that deficit? Money doesn't just drop out of the sky. It comes from 2 principal sources, restricted and unrestricted. Restricted is exactly what it sounds like. It's a pot of money that was given by donors generally for a specific purpose. And some of it can remain in investment-bearing accounts, and we may have access to some of the investment earnings on that. But in general, the main body of that money is set aside for something specific, like the building. And we have unrestricted funds. We have funds that are more like, your grandparents give you $20 when you come over, so, have a good time. Unrestricted monies are some of the monies that are set aside by the vestry for specific projects, and they also contain funds that come from earnings on the restricted funds. I wanted to show you where this pot of money has gone, this pot that we refer to as unrestricted funds. This is where we draw from to offset those deficits. Good news, we got some dough. Bad news, it's heading downhill, right? So it's heading downhill. That it is not an inexhaustible source of funding. Net assets are the equivalent of equity or net worth in nonprofits. It's usually referred to as net assets. That's your total liabilities subtracted from your total assets, and that continues to grow. So where I'm going with this is we have gone to that piggy bank. We have drawn down some of those unrestricted funds to offset deficits, but our total asset base continues to grow. So yay for us. Our average pledge is growing. Hoorah! Our number of pledging units is shrinking. If there's one slide that tells the story of the pandemic, I think it actually might be this slide. We are not alone. We are not alone among Episcopal congregations, and we are not alone among other faith-based communities. But we kind of need more people coming in the door. Key takeaways, I think we've done a very good job up in the green. We've done a really good job managing our expenses. As I look at our total financial picture, I think our challenges that we face are based on revenue, not on cost. I think we most of the black clouds that are in here can be solved by more money and more people. The blue box says we've drawn from capital resources, but those capital resources are in fact shrinking. The purple box says many of the monetary challenges that we have can and will be fixed by bringing more people to church. Call up your cousin that you haven't seen in a long time, bring your next door neighbors, round up some folks and bring them to church. We do have a mandate to serve, to love and serve. And I love the fact that we have a great story to tell. I was in marketing too long. We have a great product. We do have a great product. And I think we can do a stronger job of telling that story and bringing more people to come and visit us and find out about Trinity Cathedral. I am always happy to take questions, probably not now, but no. I went on way too long. All right, so quick general questions.
Yeah, it was, you say pledge and pledge related. What is pledge related income?
We have some, the question was, what does pledge and pledge related mean? We have some income that comes in regularly, but is not necessarily formally pledged. It comes in the door, we always know it's coming in the door, but we can't technically call it a pledge unless someone has signed a card.
Okay.
Jean.
Do you have any information on the percentage of people who come to church in contrast with pledges from the people who are watching online?
We have not tracked that as the question was, have we tracked, we have good data on donations coming from physical attenders versus coming attending online. We haven't tracked that down as well as we want to. And we would, I think, probably like to have more financial contribution from those viewing online. Okay? Thank you all. Cheers.
Thank you. Something that Rick said that we've been conscious of is the need to grow post-COVID and also the need to engage with our online community better. A number of people that are a part of our online community do pledge, further to your question, Jean, but we are not tracking that as well as we could, and we're not engaging as well as we could, and we could engage better. From September onwards, we had a Welcome Back to Church campaign. I don't know if you've been tracking. I have. It had an impact. If you look behind you at the number from this morning's 11 o'clock service, it's about 137. This morning was average Sunday. It was a Sunday of about 290 attendees. That's more than our 264 that we've been recording for last year, and we've been noticing that trend for some period of time. We're grateful that more people are coming. One of the challenges is that when people are brand new to church, they are not necessarily in the pledging habit. And also giving trends have changed over the years, and so people don't quite give in the same way as they once did. We're still trying to be creative and think hard about how we can educate everybody about the financial needs of the church as they attend. And if anybody here would be interested in still making a pledge, come and speak to me later. Or speak to the treasurer, or probably even Regan, even though Regan is retiring. We'd happily guide you to a pledge card. There probably are pledge cards via a QR code in the pews in front of you as we speak. We'd be delighted to receive any more pledges. Okay, Dean's report. This is mine. But I'm going to share it this year. Strategic plan. I've been reporting on the strategic plan for a couple of years, and we set a strategic plan in 2023 to go to 2025. You may notice it's 2025. But no, we changed our minds. The vestry has gone together and said that the strategic plan is still guiding us effectively in terms of our overarching mission. And so they chose recently to extend it to 2026. Partly because we have so much that's going to be happening this year that we do not think it's the right year to sit down and completely rewrite a strategic plan when it is still serving our purposes and guiding our ministry. But celebrating our accomplishments, I'd like Ken and Megan to come and talk to us about how we've been doing on our strategic plan so far.
I'd like to remind everyone of the good work we did even before 2023, meeting with our fabulous consultant and all of the good input you all put in. And she came back to us with really concise and compelling goals. And so I really do believe that her work was the foundation of the good work we've done together. Shout out to Mario. Yes, absolutely. And a little bit of history is that this strategic plan was guided by our, next slide, our values, which is to be diverse, inclusive, just, prayerful, and unafraid. And we organized our 5 area goals into spirit teams from our old existing ministry teams. So that gave people a structure and good leadership to guide those teams. So I want to go over the good work we've done these past years, and then we'll look forward to the year to come. Our first goal was to grow our community using Invite, Welcome, Connect as our guide. Now, we have been growing Invite, Welcome, Connect steadily, even before the strategic plan, but we have grown in leaps and bounds since the strategic plan. And in years previous, we've had a little bit of trouble staffing the welcome table, but this year we've grown our capacity so much that we've been able to staff it every Sunday. And I see nods from our team. I'm so grateful. That's been a really effective way and just a window into how we can connect and maintain relationships so that we get more members in our community, which has been fabulous. Our Charis class, our newcomers class, had a record high attendance, 3 times what we normally have this fall, and it was a phenomenal group to engage with. And we more than doubled the amount of newcomer registrations this year. So that's big things to celebrate under that Invite, Welcome, Connect goal. Under pastoral care, which is a subgroup of our Invite, Welcome, Connect goal, this year and in years past, we discerned and implemented a new lay pastoral care setup. We trained an inaugural class in the Community of Hope International Ministry, and the Encourager Ministry is going to launch later this spring. So we've really done phenomenal work in building our capacity for lay pastoral care and volunteer buy-in, which is a huge thing to celebrate for us. On to goal number 2, we became a resource for the diocese and a spiritual leader in Sacramento. We increased our public policy advocacy in the community and partnered with social justice agencies like Sacramento Act. And it's been phenomenal to witness in the growth of these past couple years that the diocese and really the wider community come to us as kind of a first resource because they know we have the team, they know we have the facilities. A great example of this was when the surprise flight of migrants flew into our community and we were able to host the press conference there. So that was a huge goal to celebrate. And we hosted civic engagement formation, and that was also open to the wider diocese with the help of Reverend Alex, which was a phenomenal offering. On to goal number 3, deepen our family ministry programs and provide formation for all ages. You might have noticed increased children and family membership and participation, My favorite illustration of that was if you were at the 9 a.m. a couple Sundays ago, it looked a little bit empty out here, but then you looked over to the family area and everyone was packed in like sardines. So we're really celebrating our growth in that area of ministry. We've offered quality spiritual and social formation for families, and we've increased and deepened our adult formation offerings. And a phenomenal example of this are our new Lenten small groups, which were phenomenally organized by Reverend Alex and team, and it has been a great way to engage in small group formation. Number 4, we've become a center for liturgical excellence. A great example is if you were at the Easter Vigil last year, how that was like dramatically reimagined and implemented through our liturgical team. They did an excellent job. We enhanced our special liturgies such as Indigenous Peoples Day, All Saints Day, and Africa Day. We offered several instructed Eucharists, which have been a great opportunity for us to be more knowledgeable about our liturgies together, and we've hosted numerous diocesan services together. And on to goal number 5, develop a master plan for our building and have a funding plan in place. And a little bit of background on this is that we've had a lot of community meetings, we've had input from all of you, and it's where we've gotten to today. We've worked with the architect on community listening sessions and staff priorities. We've developed building values, completed the 2024 with building proposals, and then I'm not going to take off all of Dean Matthews' talking points, so I'll leave a little bit of that for him to tell us about. And now as we move into 2026, or 2025 and 2026, I'm looking forward to the continued progress we're going to make with our excellent strategic plan and our ministry teams in place. And as we move into the more future, I would like to bring up Reverend Alex to comment on the future of the church together.
Thank you, Ken and Megan. So for the future of the church, I want to just begin by contexting. As Dean Matthew and Ken and Megan pointed out, we are continuing our strategic plan. This is not like, here's what we're doing in the next year. That's being guided by our continued strategic plan. I was asked to think about, as director of formation and as a young clergyman, where the church is, what I see forming in the church, and where that may be headed 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road. One of the things I see that's happening in our congregation at the moment that Ken and Megan highlighted is this deepening of relationships. Whether you're talking about Jan getting more connected to SAC ACT, whether you want to talk about pastoral care, forming new pastoral care models. Our formation world has been focusing on small group ministries and intergenerational ministries, building those relationships. What I see going on is that the church, which has kind of always been true, but we'll come back to that, but the church, how did I phrase it? That the future of the church lies in the relationships we build with one another. That the Christian mission, that the proclamation of the gospel, that what it is to be a community formed by Christ, reflecting the image of Christ to the world, is a deeply relational model, which reflects the God we worship as a triune God, a God who is community and relationality in God's own self. And that above all else, we as Christians are called into this kind of authentic community with one another that is deeply, as we might say when the clergy get together, deeply incarnational. And what does that mean? That means God came to meet us in the person of Jesus the Christ, a full blood, flesh and blood human being like you and I, who knows highs and lows, struggles and joy. And so as we continue this deeper relational work, living into the idea that we proclaim the gospel most fully in the human relationships we share with one another. Those relationships become, to greater and greater degrees, authentic and vulnerable and open relationships where we deeply know one another and encounter the living Christ in those relationships with one another. Next slide, thank you. And as we do that work, whether we do that work with JAM or with pastoral care or formation, wherever that happens, what I see bubbling up is that people are wanting to find new ways to live their faith in the world. Sometimes that push comes from the world, meaning when the world presents us some challenging circumstances, some challenging situations. Sometimes that bubbles up from our own growth in our spiritual journey, but that we're focused on new and life-giving patterns of life, that Christianity in the future, even now, is not about belonging to a club. Christianity is about living into a way of life that gives us life, living a certain way, whether that's coming to church, that's praying, that's studying scripture, that's gathering with these relationships that mean so much to us. Christianity is a way of living life more fully, living life that is more forgiving, compassionate, and seeking justice. That increasingly, as Christendom has closed, and our status as Christians being a identity marker of privilege, increasingly what Christianity becomes then is a path of living and embodying Jesus' love in the world, amongst ourselves. And so, where that takes us is out into the world, where we then increasingly bear that witness. I love that quote from John. Everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. As a young person, I have to clue you in. A lot of my friends are not Christian. A lot of them do not go to church. People in their 37-year-oldness are not going to church. It's sad to me how much when, in the last few weeks, those 37-year-olds reach out to me and are like, I can't believe you're a Christian because I see on News Channel X all these things about what it means to be a Christian. And what a joy it will be one day when people will know us by the love we share rather than different characterizations of us portrayed elsewhere. And I think that only starts to happen when we can actually publicly witness to that love to the world, where in those more authentic relationships we can share and reveal that love to others, which I think is actually the proclamation of the kingdom of God. Now I'm going to let Dean Matthew take it from there. I don't know what you're going to do with that. I do. But I'm going to let you take it from there.
Thank you. I'm grateful to my colleagues. We're working at this all the time, trying to think about how to position ourselves and be present in the world. And I hope you just naturally saw some links between like that philosophy and also our strategic plan and what we're trying to do and to be in the world, how we're trying to live. Someone said to me recently that we've really tried to train people to be good church members, and actually we should be trying to train people to be good Christians. And also our relationships and the quality of our relationships and the way they relate to one another is a key part of that. So thank you, Alex, for expounding on that. Thank you, Megan, for sharing about your perspectives on how we are doing as a cathedral with our strategic plan. But I'm going to go on and talk about architecture and values. This is one of those parts, it's like one of my sermons where I kind of like wander off and you wonder where I'm going. I'm going somewhere. We've been working on thinking about this building. One of the reasons I wanted to stop and think about a strategic plan and stop and think about what the future of church looks like is the building has to serve the mission. The building has to serve the purpose. What we are doing in this place and how we make it fit for the future has to kind of make sense with where we think the church is going. So we developed some values. As we move towards our 150th anniversary in 25 years' time, we want to take care of our buildings and imagine a sacred space that is ready to serve the spiritual needs of our community well into the future. That's why we wanted to think about what those needs might be. In order to do that, we will live into the following values, discerned by our community and confirmed by our vestry. These were our architectural values: accessible, future-oriented, and sustainable. My next slide. We want to create an accessible space to foster welcome and inclusivity. You might hear in that some of the echoes of what Alex said. The space must welcome people into those deeper relationships. We create spaces with open sightlines, good acoustics, comfortable seating, spaces for all ages and abilities, and a centralized altar, which is kind of a metaphor for all of this, gathering together around a common table. We're going to do it in a minute over in the Great Hall, and it's an important part of the DNA of this community that we gather around Eucharistic and dinner tables to deepen our relationships and experience the holy. Future-oriented, we are future-focused and will create a modernized space that blends ancient beauty with flexibility. We don't want to forget our wonderful traditions, and at the same time we do want to make the space workable for the future. The central, there we go. We want to blend ancient beauty and flexibility, empowering us to adapt and change to meet the spiritual needs of our community, diocese, and city. There we go. Sustainable. We create a sustainable space that honors God, our faith community, and our planet. We will source labor and quality materials ethically, and we want to create a space that will thrive well into the future. We've realized that some of our values around creation need to be reflected better in our building. This space consumes an awful lot of energy. Just to have you warmed or cooled at various times during the year, and we're really thinking about that. So, I've interwoven the architectural values with the future church concepts that Alex talked about. We want to be sustainable, we want to have a public witness, we want to be accessible, we want to follow Jesus, we want to be future-oriented, we want to have deepening relationships. And I really felt, as I was listening to what Alex was saying, that our hopes for the building interweave with our hopes for the future of the church, that they kind of relate to one another. Next slide, please. So in this building, as we do some work on this and possibly look at a capital campaign in the coming year, we want our values to be on display. We want people to see what we believe to be important in the choices we make about the way that we upgrade our space. We want to open the doors, both physically and virtually. We want people to be able to come in electronically and come in physically into the space and be able to use the space in a variety of ways. So we want to be physical and virtual, and we want places where people can learn and practice love. If we're going to live into the kind of church that Alex is describing, then we need to have spaces where we can learn. And the church has always been a space to learn how to love each other, because not all of us are lovable. And so we are working on learning to love all the time. We are growing in that. But we really want to explicitly make that an important part of the spaces that we build. We want to make the space feel cared for. I will just be gently honest with you. Sometimes I walk around the cathedral and I see spaces that they look a bit frayed, that look a bit aged, that need a bit of love. We want to do some of the deferred maintenance that we haven't done. And we want to center the altar and the font, which I have realized is a symbolic kind of action around the nature of incarnation. Jesus comes to be in the middle of us, and so we want to gather together in the middle around an altar and a font that's inviting and welcoming. Next slide. So I've got some of the pictures of our building plan. Centering the altar and the font, this is the picture that I shared with you all on January the 12th, I think. Was it January the 12th or January the 19th? somewhere in January, which gives you a picture of us gathering around this flexible worship space around the font and the altar. Next slide. Our artistic and community values want to be on display. We want to be visible about what we believe, and there is an artistic idea about putting some images on this upper part of the sanctuary that would do that explicitly, but there are so many other ways in which the building that we are hoping we will renovate will do that. The next slide. A place to learn and to practice love. It's just a different rendering of the sanctuary with chairs in it this time, but imagine yourself in the space, learning and practicing love with each other. Next slide. Online and in person seamlessly. This is a picture of some of the classrooms and some of the program spaces that we want to build. Each one of them would have a screen in it, and we are getting very used to having a circle of people gathered around with a screen so that people that aren't able to gather with us can join in educational activities seamlessly with the people who are in the building. We're getting better at learning how to do that. Some of our activities are entirely online, some of our activities are entirely in person, some of our activities are hybrid. We'd like our building to be able to do that better than it currently does. I know Amy Durham is here and she does that on a Sunday morning in her group. I know that Alex is doing that on a regular basis. Susan, you do it too. Gospel preview is entirely online, meditation is entirely online. There are a whole variety of things that we do seamlessly between these two spaces, and we want our space to be able to do that better. Next slide, please. We want creation care for the world to see. This is really interesting to me, because when I suggested that we put solar panels on the roof at the January meeting, 10 years ago there would have been a different reaction. There was a cheer that went up from people in the congregation. And even though some of those solar panels might be visible from the street, I think people now think that might be a positive example of our witness to the world about creation care, rather than an infringement of the heritage of the roof. It's a way of living into the future and saying, we would like this space to not have a carbon footprint that is damaging to God's creation, and we're willing to make it a visible part of who we are. Okay, some of those solar panels will be visible probably from the back alley, not so much the front street, but they'll be visible. Okay, next page. So the next stage of our capital campaign, which is going to be an important part of the business of this coming year, is a feasibility study. We need to work out what we can actually do. We have a consultant that is coming to join us, Leslie Pendleton, on the 7th, 8th, and 9th of March. We're going to be setting up some interviews with some members of the community. She can't meet everybody in person, I'm sorry. But Pam Sottenberger, our senior warden, do you want to stand and wave, Pam? There you go, that's Pam. We'll be reaching out to some of you and asking if you could see Leslie on the 7th, 8th, and 9th. And she's going to go through step by step every part of that plan and ask what your input and insight is on it. For everybody else is going to be asked to give their input as well through a questionnaire that they can fill out and send back. And there'll also be an opportunity to reflect on what you might be willing to give towards a program like that. So we want to find out whether the plan that we have put together is feasible. That's the idea. And once we have a report back from our consultants, the vestry will sit down with it and reflect on it and decide about whether we can continue with the capital campaign later in the year, which is our hope, but you have to be part of that conversation. So that's what happens next. Is that okay? Did I say everything that screen said? Okay, I'm going to pause at that point before I go to my final words, and I'm going to say, phew, you might be exhausted. Does anybody have any questions, though? And can I also thank my colleagues, Megan and Alex, for their input on that presentation? I wanted us to do this together. Do you have a clearer picture of where we might be? Does anybody have any questions? Susan? JAM is an acronym for Justice and Mercy. It is our ministries of justice and mercy that we engage in the world. It got a new title in 2024. It's JAM. I'm English. I like JAM. And I have this fantasy of a fundraiser at some point in the future where we all make jam and sell jam for jam. But thank you for that. Any other questions? Okay. Okay, thank you.
I was wondering what is going to go into comprise the feasibility information and report?
Sorry, I can't hear very much. I'm coming up. Speak louder a little bit.
I was wondering what goes into what information are they looking for the feasibility report?
So we've put together a tentative case statement that we will show you. In about a week's time, it's going to appear on the Cathedral website, maybe 2 weeks' time. And we're also going to send out physical versions, or probably virtual versions that you can download and have a look at. It has a kind of a step-by-step approach to all of the things that we could do, including the possibility of prioritizing some things over others. You might think this is really incredibly important. You have to do that, and there'll be an opportunity for you to say that. You might think that some part of that plan is not important at all, and then we'll downgrade that, and you'll tell us that you don't think that's as important. At the end of that, all of that, your responses get aggregated together and put into a final report that we'll see as a vestry and then be able to respond to. Did I answer your question? Sorry, thank you. The tentative case statement is an important part of the feasibility study. Helps us to understand what's coming up. And actually, can I just ask, who's on the building and tech team that's actually here right now? Would you stand and just wave? Here are some of the people that have been working on this. They saw the tentative case statement on Thursday. Everyone was cool with it, I think. It's a really interesting document, and I'm really grateful for all the work that's gone into it. Okay, shall I move on to the final words then? What's up? Did you want to say something? Elba? Oh, okay, sorry, I thought you wanted to say something. The senior warden! This is the worst kept secret in Christendom. I am appointing Pam Stoltenberger as a senior warden for another year. Pam, would you like to address your public? Come here. Thank you, Pam.
It's just a huge honor to be the senior warden of Trinity Cathedral. I've really enjoyed, I guess, my time, but I think that the most wonderful thing that the congregation needs to know is how the vestry is so committed to doing the right thing, carrying us forward, and everything that they do is so thoughtful. There's lots of questions we banter things about, and it's really an honor to do this. And I know there's some people out there that are saying, I can't believe she said she'd do it for another year, but I did. So there you are, Matthew.
Thank you, Pam. Pam is a great working partner and has really helped us. And I'm really appreciative at the moment, as we're in the middle of some big decisions, having some strong consistency from leadership, and that's really important, and Pam is a great partner in that process. Now, we come to retiring vestry members, and it is my tradition and habit to say thank you to retiring vestry members. They do so much in the life of the cathedral, and so I would like to thank Tori Beck for your service on the vestry as you come to retirement, and we have a gift, and my faithful servant, assistant, I'm sorry. Commander Puccinelli. Thank you. This is for you. You may open it if you wish, Tori. You can, yeah. It's kind of cute. Oh, I hope it's cute. You might hate it. I got Tori a tie-dye set. Woo! A tie-dye kit. I thought it would resonate with you. Thank you. And then Deirdre Johnson is retiring as a vestry member. Deirdre Johnson, would you like to have a look at this? Deirdre Johnson is the head of Invite, Welcome, Connect, and is continuing to do so. So I got you a welcome bag. In some of the welcome bags, there are the regular tchotchkes that we give everybody that are brand new. But I also gave Deirdre, there you go, the beer opener, candy. I gave Deirdre chocolate. Historically, we gave out chocolate to all newcomers, and then we stopped for a while, and I got really sad because that means that there's no stock of chocolate in the parish office that I can get to. But these are for you, Deirdre, the chocolates, and then those are golden name tags that you may deploy as you see fit. You can give them out to special people. Deirdre, thank you for your service on the vestry. Heather Lyons is coming. Heather Lyons has been a faithful member of our finance committee and a member of the vestry now for 3 years. But what you don't know is that Heather is a member of the rock band, Jason and the Lions. Jason and the Lionesses. I'm sorry, I got it wrong. Okay, so I've given you a karaoke microphone to assist in your rock band lifestyle with your 2 girls and your husband. And thank you. Regan Murphy. I would like to thank Regan Murphy. Regan Murphy is a retiring member of the vestry and a retiring chair of the development committee. Regan, here is your gift. And I got you little chocolate gold coins. But also I got you little sunglasses with dollar signs. Do you want to they're in there somewhere. Thank you, our development chair, for your work. Thank you. Thank you. Bill Simmons. Bill Simmons is a retiring member of the vestry, and for 2 years he has been the chaplain of the vestry. That means he begins every vestry meeting with a reading from scripture and prayers. He helps focus us on our prayerful ministry. He also, sometimes, we might pause in the middle of a complex piece of business and say a prayer. But also he'll bring to the attention of the vestry people who are going forward for ordination. We have a number of people from the life of the community that do that, and it's often the chaplain's job to bring them to the attention of the vestry so the vestry knows who it is in the cathedral community that is moving forward for ordination. I want to thank you, Bill, for your work, and if you want to have a look inside, what I have got for you is a meditation chime, because you often bring calm to places where it's needed. So that is my gift for you, Bill. I'm gonna definitely go past 5. Are you okay? Just by a little bit. Just by a little bit. Dean's Awards. We have come to that part of the evening that some people wait for. And I don't know if you like it. Where Dean's Awards goes back 25, 30, even more years, I think, way back. Way back. And they are awards to people that have done remarkable things in the life of the community. So if I call your name, you should come and join me. And as I call your name, I will read the citation. Fran Baxter Guili. Fran is an usher extraordinaire. Her faithfulness to the 7:30 a.m. service and her presence at ordinations, memorials, evensongs and weddings are a sign of her commitment and service. Fran knows the task of an usher well, guiding people to their seat, collecting their offering, making sure people know where to go during communion. But it is the way she fills these tasks with prayerful and loving attention that lifts her service as an usher to a pastoral art. She is observant, also noting when people are absent, or her face changes in their wellness. Fran will make sure that the right people are aware when this is the case so that care might be extended. Ushers are on the front line when it comes to greeting the public and occasionally challenging situations. She fills the role with grace and is a great ambassador for our Episcopal faith. Thank you, Fran. Do you want to stay with me for a second and we'll take a photo in a minute? There's some other people going to come and join us. Kathy Nelson is a contemplative who takes action when necessary. This combination of her prayerfulness and desire to serve is a gift to the people she encounters at Trinity Cathedral. She's been our lead volunteer for the Friday Morning Respite Centre for almost 2 years. She works alongside Midtown Heart, the homeless assistance resource team, on Fridays from 9:30 until 12:30 at their weekly drop-in offering for unsheltered individuals. But her service goes beyond that. She arrives early to set up the kitchen, makes sure snacks are available, collects clothes from us all, and sorts and sets them up for distribution. She shelters the homeless, she feeds the hungry, she clothes the naked, and all for the sake of the gospel. Her commitment to Trinity Cathedral's mission is exemplary. Kathy's respite volunteer work is of the highest caliber and deeply appreciated. And I was asked to add that she is also a great leader in our contemplative ministries and brings people together in prayer. And that's a wonderful balance, action and prayer. Thank you, Kathy. Dion Zivkovic. I'm sorry, Dion. Dion is a regular attendee at our 11 a.m. Eucharist and at the monthly 20s and 30s group. He's growing in Episcopal faith in a quiet, unassuming manner, and his volunteering has affected every one of us, though he would not draw attention to it. Dion is a creative graphic designer who, over the last 4 years, has assisted the cathedral in improving our communications with members of the congregation and the wider community. As such, he has proclaimed the good news of God in Jesus Christ widely. Dion developed our new brand identity, work of the highest professional caliber that he undertook as a volunteer. Dion helped develop our new website, creating clean lines and clear communication. Dion recently designed all of the printed materials for our Walk in Love stewardship campaign, again as a volunteer. His work was clear, concise, beautiful, and spoke to so many in the congregation, inspiring generosity and engagement in the life of our community. Thank you, Dion, for your creativity, style, and quiet witness to faith. And I have one more of these. Regan Murphy. Regan Murphy knows how they did it at Grace Cathedral, but has found a way to live into our beloved Trinity as development chair and EFM mentor. I love that Regan has committed herself to the practical needs of the cathedral and our development team, raising money through stewardship, holding legacy teas and encouraging gifts to our legacy society, and at the same time she has led EFM, a ministry that helps form lay members of the community in their faith so that they might deepen their Christian service. These two emphases are humbling and a reminder to us all that there are many ways to serve. This year's stewardship campaign has reached the highest pledge total in 15 years. Regan retires from this role with our gratitude and love. This is a different kind of different kind of document. And I found myself asking for courtesy resolutions on regular occasions for things that don't quite fit into the pattern of Dean's Awards. And so I'm proposing a resolution that I'd like you to vote on. Let me read it to you. Whereas Trinity Episcopal Cathedral was blessed by the presence of Carolyn Conrad as a long-standing member of our community for decades. Whereas Carolyn engaged in many ministries in the life of the cathedral, across those decades forever committed to her objectives. Whereas as one of her volunteer roles, she was president of our branch of Daughters of the King, seeking to foster prayerful and committed volunteers among the women of Trinity Cathedral. And whereas she sang the praises of God, welcomed newcomers, spoke up when she felt it necessary, and defended her vision of Christian faith. And whereas she wrestled with God and other people, with a heart firmly in the right place, even if at times her tongue and temperament struggled to keep up. And whereas she recently died and will be laid to rest from All Saints Episcopal Church, Sacramento, on March the 8th, 2025. Now therefore be it resolved by the annual meeting of the Trinity Cathedral in Sacramento, California, that Carolyn Conrad has been a good and faithful servant. She has served God in her own inimitable way and has a special place in our hearts. And be it further resolved by the annual meeting of the cathedral, that the cathedral community affirm that Carolyn was a beloved child of a loving God and may now rest in peace with the Lord she loved and served. I hope that I might achieve a second. And I wonder if people would vote to affirm this resolution. This is really for us in community. Often I'm able to give this to somebody, but I can't on this occasion. But please pray for Carolyn as she comes to her rest. Thank you. I'm going to take a deep breath. One more thing. Sabbath. I need to let you know that it's my 5th year of serving you at the cathedral. I didn't know if you knew that. And in the 5th year of clergy serving in the Diocese of Northern California, we are invited to take a sabbatical, or some Sabbath time. And so I want to let you know that I have a Sabbath coming up for me in ministry. It's going to be taking place from April the 9th to July the 9th. There are some different philosophies about how Sabbaths should work. Some people think you should just do it in the summer when nothing's going on and it's least disruptive to the life of the cathedral. Others think that for renewal for the clergy person, it's a good idea to take a major festival off. And we are very privileged in our setting. I know that, and I'm grateful for it. We have wonderful colleagues. I have wonderful colleagues. I have Canon Megan, I have Reverend Alex, I have a whole range of other retired clergy who are so faithful in the life of the cathedral community that we are able to meet all of our liturgical requirements if I take that time off. So Canon Megan is going to be acting as dean in my absence, and Pam as senior warden. And indeed, it's really lovely having Pam, who really knows the reins of the senior wardenship, to be working with Megan as she is acting dean during this period. I want to say Mark and Jean, who have been administrators of the Justice and Mercy Ministry, that's the ministry that I'm most associated with. That's the one that is under my job title. They're going to carry on leading in that ministry in my absence for those 3 months, and I'm really grateful for them. And what will be the subject of my sabbatical? I'm going to be working on my art practice that you know is a part of my life that I sometimes ignore. And I'm going to be working on my wellness, just, looking after myself. I'm excited to go, but I'll be excited to come back and join you again at the end of the sabbatical. So you may, if you know dates in my life, know that the 9th of April is my birthday, which is kind of why I'm starting there. You may not know, taking my life in my hands, I'm a candidate for naturalization, and because I've been in the US for 14 years now, the key meeting is tomorrow morning at 7:15. So say a prayer for me in the morning, if you will. But at the moment, I haven't got travel plans associated with my sabbatical because I need the naturalization to be resolved first. I may make some plans to travel a little further afield, but otherwise I might be looking after myself here. But I am grateful for the opportunity to have a sabbatical. I'm grateful to all of you because I know that you'll look after the church in my absence. I'm grateful to Megan and Pam for the wonderful leadership I know they will exercise in the life of the community, for all of the clergy who I know will help and support Megan and Alex in this time. Thank you. Shall we pray? God be with you. Loving God, you call us to love and to serve. As we leave this meeting, having elected leaders, reflected on our resources and contemplated our plans, return us to that first love. Help us to love deeply and serve widely, so that your world might have in it a glimmer of your divine grace. Amen. I only went 11 minutes over. People are going to the courtyard now, where drinks will be served. At 6 o'clock, dinner will be served in the Great Hall. You're all invited to stay, whether you bought any food or not. Some people bought lots of sides, and that's wonderful. We would love to have a time of fellowship together, celebrate, perhaps talk about the content of the meeting, and chat with each other about that. But I do want to say I need to see the newly elected and ongoing members of the vestry at the front just for about 5 or 10 minutes before we release you. Did I forget something, Alex? Childcare will close at 6 o'clock, so please go get your children so they can join us for dinner at that point. That's the idea, that they join us for dinner. So with that being said, I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 5:12. Let you go to your drinks, but invite vestry members and anyone on the vestry to come and join me now. Thank you.